One of the things that's really important in managing cattle is understanding feed intake behavior, how they respond to the diet you put in front of them. GrowSafe allows us to look at individual behavior of the calves. Not only do we know how a pen acts, we know how variation among individual animals will react in feed intake. Also, we have a lot of interest in being able to select for calves that are more efficient, look at residual feed intake, and this equipment allows us to do that measurement.
Yeah, so this is our GrowSafe beef unit. It sits in front of the drinker, and what it does is it reads the EID tag of one calf as they drink at a time, and it sits on load cells down here that it weighs the calf's front feet, and it has an algorithm that tells us what their current weight is and also how they're growing. And then up here we have our feed bunk system that weighs each calf as they eat. It weighs the feed that they're consuming to give us individual intakes on every calf.
So this is the GrowSafe system, and so we've got some Angus and Bronvie. This is seed stock cattle in there now, and this fits into some of the residual feed intake work that we're doing. And our interest there is if we select for residual feed intake, what does that do to reduce cost of calves in the feedlot? Really working on feed efficiency and the genetic link to that. But anyway, we use this GrowSafe system to measure feed intake and weight gain of the calves. And what it's doing is it's each bunk in the pen these calves are in, it's got an antenna that's reading intake or who's at that bunk several times per minute. So throughout the day it records what calf's there, the feed bunk or node sets on weigh bars, so it's continually weighing that feed. So we calculate from that how many times the calf comes up to eat, how much it eats while it's there, its eating rate per minute, and a lot of data like that. End of the day, we can get what individual intake of calves are in a pen setting. So that's kind of the interest that we have. Bring up the daily intake by pen. And so this is all of them, right? Just go to pen 1, it shows about the same. But if you look, the average of the pen from 3 days ago, or 2 days ago and yesterday, really looks pretty even. So if we're trying to read the bunks, that's like we're doing a great job on reading the bunk. It's pretty even, just a few pounds difference between the 2 days. We think we're doing a great job, right? Now let's go to bring up the individual intakes on that. What GrowSafe showed us is what you think you know about feeding cattle, you don't know squat. And each of these blue columns is the amount of feed that a calf ate yesterday. And so what I want to point out is this calf is, I don't have my glasses on, Kyle, what's that at?
32 pounds.
So the highest intake of that calf is 32 pounds. Lowest intake, where's that guy at?
10 pounds.
So 32 pounds and 10 pounds. If we look at tomorrow, this calf that's eating 10 pounds will likely be eating 30 pounds, and the calf that ate 32 pounds here may be at 10. So what we see is over a 3-day cycle, or these calves have an eating pattern over a 3-day cycle. So if I go to Dr. Dorsey, the DVM, he's going to say, Monty, you're doing a lousy job as a nutritionist because these calves are set up for acidosis. And I'm going to say, oh, not true, Dr. Dorsey. This is normal eating behavior. So we don't know if it's metabolic loading or whatever it is on that calf, but it's a very characteristic 3-day cycle. So when I look at a pen, and you remember that first thing I showed where they're all pretty even across the 3 days, as a pen they are, and I'm doing a beautiful job managing those calves. What the individual calves do, over a 3 to 5 day period, we'll see a 50% swing in intake by that calf. So if they're 20 pounds is where that calf's at, any given day he'll be 30 pounds maybe as a high, or 10 pounds as a low. So what we think we know about feeding these cattle, it brings a whole new element to how you put a diet together and what you try to do to keep that rumen healthy and the calf going. The thing we love about this, the GrowSafe system, is really two things. One is the accuracy of the data that we can get on the calves when we do some nutritional intervention to them. The second thing is we've got each of these pens, we can put 12 calves in here. If I'm doing a research experiment, this pen is one observation. By having the GrowSafe system, I've got 12 observations in this pen. So the power of test, the statistical significance, it just increases exponentially by being able to look at individual animals.
So we can have a more impactful study using less animals than say just a pin versus pin study.
Yes, yep. The real interest we have with these is residual feed intake is how they fit in to our feeding program, but the first and primary reason we had these is when we balance for amino acids to energy, we know that we reduce intake on the calves, but we can get the same performance, right? Because we've got the amino acids balanced. The thing that we were interested in was feed intake behavior. If we try additives to the diet, what effect does that have on the behavior of the calf? So it's really how do we build our program and understanding now when we put this in play on the producer's farm, how are those calves going to respond to what we've done to the diet?